A sleek charity gala, champagne glasses, a smiling man giving a speech. Cut to a homeless veteran watching silently from across the street. He was praised as a philanthropist, a man who claimed to help the needy, but while the cameras flashed and the donations poured in, millions were vanishing. No one suspected a thing, until a homeless veteran saw through the lies. What happens when the invisible become the whistleblowers? This is a true story of a man who cheated charity, and the veteran who brought him down. To the public, Preston Maddox was a hero, founder of Hope Bridge International. Preston had built a public image as a savior for the poor. The media adored him. He hosted star-studded galas. He shook hands with politicians. He smiled into the cameras and promised, "We're changing lives." He wore $5,000 suits and drove a Tesla, claiming it was for environmental reasons. But behind the scenes, Preston's empire was rotten, because Hope Bridge International, the charity Preston founded, wasn't really about hope or bridges. It was a well-oiled machine built for fraud. He faked financial reports. He created fake aid sites in countries he'd never visited. He even staged promotional videos with hired actors pretending to be disaster victims. Millions in donations from caring people were being siphoned through shell companies to his private accounts in the Cayman Islands. No one questioned him. Not the board, not the press, not even the auditors, because Preston always knew how to smile, how to deflect, how to say just the right thing. That is, until Joseph Langley saw through the mask. Joseph Langley was a forgotten man, a former Marine. He had served 2 tours in Afghanistan. He'd been decorated, respected, and called a hero. But when he came back home, there were no parades, only trauma, medical bills, and silence. He lost his job, then his apartment. Eventually, he found himself sleeping on benches near Harmony Square, just a few blocks from where Preston's charity hosted its luxurious events. Most people walked past Joseph like he didn't exist. But Joseph watched everything, especially when people didn't think he was watching. He noticed the deliveries going in and out of Hope Bridge headquarters at odd hours. He heard staff whispering during smoke breaks about fund transfers, and he started collecting discarded paperwork from dumpsters, financial reports, shredded memos, bank statements. It wasn't that Joseph wanted to get involved. He had enough pain of his own. But something about Preston's smug speeches about serving the forgotten hit a nerve. "I am forgotten," Joseph muttered once, staring up at a billboard of Preston's smiling face. That's when he decided to act. Armed with bags of shredded documents and a cheap prepaid phone, Joseph walked into a local investigative journalist's office. No one took him seriously, until he handed over a folder of reconstructed financial spreadsheets he had spent weeks piecing together. The journalist, Maya Singh, flipped through the pages in disbelief. "Where did you get this?" she asked. Joseph looked her straight in the eyes. The truth doesn't always wear a suit. Maya knew there was something here. She started digging, and what she found was worse than anyone imagined. Millions earmarked for hurricane victims in Puerto Rico never arrived. Schools built in rural Kenya, nothing but doctored photos. Bank accounts linked to Preston's ex-wife, and even a yacht registered in Dubai. Maya knew she needed more. And Joseph, with his military background and eye for detail, offered to help. Together, they built a timeline, followed the money, and quietly contacted other whistleblowers inside Hope Bridge. It took 6 months of quiet work. Joseph remained anonymous. Maya protected his identity at all costs. Then one morning, the story dropped. Charity fraud exposed. Hope Bridge's millions never reached the needy. The public was stunned. News outlets picked it up. Donors demanded answers. The IRS launched an emergency audit. And Preston? He laughed it off at first, calling it fake news. But that laughter didn't last, because the story didn't just contain allegations. It had evidence, emails, wire transfers, internal memos, and photos. And at the end of the report, a statement from an unnamed former Marine turned whistleblower. The backlash was swift. Corporate sponsors pulled out. Prestigious awards were revoked. Even celebrities who once praised Preston deleted photos with him. But Preston wasn't done. He appeared on live television, smug as ever. "Someone's trying to ruin me." Probably some disgruntled ex-employee, or Maybe even a bitter nobody, he said. That's when Joseph decided he could no longer stay in the shadows. Maya called a press conference. Cameras rolled. The room was tense. And then Joseph Langley stepped up to the microphone. Worn boots, faded marine jacket, eyes steady. "My name is Joseph Langley," he said. "I serve this country. I believe in integrity. And I watched a man build his fortune pretending to help people like me while robbing them blind." You could hear a pin drop. He laid out his findings, described how he collected the evidence, how he'd spent nights reconstructing shredded documents under a streetlight, how he had nothing, but gave everything to expose the truth. The country rallied behind him. Hashtags trended. Hashtag Justice for Joseph, Vet versus Fraud, Hope Bridge Scandal. People donated to help him find housing. Lawmakers praised his courage. And the Department of Justice officially opened a federal case against Preston Maddox. It took nearly a year to build the case. But when it came to trial, Joseph was the star witness. Preston Maddox, still dressed in designer suits, sat stone-faced as Joseph took the stand. He calmly told the court how he had watched Preston's employees discard evidence, how he had followed the money trail, how every dollar Preston had stolen could have gone to someone in need. Someone like him. Preston's lawyers tried to discredit him. "Mr. Langley, aren't you homeless?" one attorney asked. "Yes," Joseph replied. "That's why I saw everything no one else did." The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Even the jury looked visibly shaken. When the verdict came down, it was clear. Guilty on 17 counts of fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy. Preston Maddox was sentenced to 25 years in federal prison and ordered to pay $18 million in restitution. Joseph didn't want fame. He didn't want credit. But the world didn't forget what he did. A local veterans organization gave him a fully furnished apartment. Donations poured in. Offers to speak at schools and conferences came from across the country. But Joseph stayed humble. In an interview after the trial, he said, "I didn't do this for revenge. I did it because people deserve to believe in good again. If we don't speak up, the liars keep winning." He used part of the donations to start a small foundation, Second Watch, focused on helping homeless veterans reintegrate into society, find employment, and access mental health care. He worked out a modest office and handed out food at shelters. He never stopped serving, because that's who he was. Joseph handing a care package to a homeless man, walking away from a courtroom, a charity sign now renamed under his foundation's banner. He had no title, no wealth, no home. But Joseph Langley reminded the world that true heroes don't wear tuxedos, they wear scars. And when everyone else looked away, he saw the truth and brought justice to the one who pretended to give it. Because sometimes it takes a forgotten to hold the powerful accountable. Subscribe for more powerful true stories of justice, redemption, and the human spirit.